agri-specific incubation center at the State Agricultural University, Telangana, that is PJTAU. And today I'll be talking about the most important and very much stressed topic, and in fact the need of the hour of empowering rural India through agripreneurship, right? And before jumping into the details and nuances of this topic, I would just like to emphasize a little on our organization where I belong to and what we do in this particular segment, because this is also important to draw the relevance between the organization or the speaker's experience versus what we are talking. So AgHub is a Section 8 not-for-profit innovation hub, which is created for and to emphasize and empower the innovation and entrepreneurship in agri-food production systems in Telangana, Pan India, and also globe. So this is completely funded and supported by NABARD, that is National Bank for Agricultural and Rural Development, under their RBIC scheme, to the State Agricultural University to exclusively to catalyze this entire innovation ecosystem and agripreneurship ecosystem across the state and also the country. And this was established in 2020. It's been more than 4 years, wherein we are operating in a very, very unique and, in fact, I would say it's first of its kind model, that is hub and spoke model in India when it comes to agriculture incubation centers. So when I say hub and spoke, it is clearly distinguished between the innovation hub, where we catalyze and also support to the tech startups, which are the agri-techs, and also student entrepreneurs and the agribusiness industry. Whereas we have three rural innovation spokes in the three agroclimatic zones of the state of Telangana, where we will be talking a lot and also doing a lot about or with the agripreneurship for rural stakeholders. They could be farmers, rural women, rural youth, or any SSGs or FPOs, any other rural community enterprises. So far, we have nurtured about 125 startups. About 12 technologies of them are validated, because we, being part of the State Agricultural University, have a core strengths of research, education, and extension, through which we will be validating these technologies and taking them to the farmers. And then we have launched 2 co-innovation programs, wherein we have co-created the agricultural or digital agricultural products which are useful for the farmers in coordination or collaboration with the scientific community of the university. And apart from this, as I told, at Innovation Hub, we also deal with student entrepreneurs and student innovators. How do we do it? Since we are an agriculture university, we have agriculture graduates who will be pursuing their courses. So we have launched India's first design thinking program for these students to become more empathetic towards the problems faced by the farmers in the agri community, and also to build or come up with the solutions for those problems. So far, so we have trained about 2,450 design thinkers, out of which we have pulled about 600 plus ideas, and through which we have, we were able to nurture about 10 student entrepreneurs so far. Along with that, we also work with startups on the IPs, that is intellectual properties, and also the fundraising. So far, for about 40 startups, we have raised more than 150 crores funding. Along with that, as I told, at rural innovation spokes, at the arms of the innovation spokes at various locations of Telangana, we work closely with the farming community and also farmer producer community. So far, we have touched about 30 FPOs, that is farmer produced organizations, and SSGs, self-help groups, and also 6,500 farmers. So this is what we do. So we believe in scale up and also scale deep models, wherein scale up we talk about technologies, climate projects, and also the startups. Whereas when we talk about scale deep, we talk more about grassroots innovations, agripreneurship at rural India, and also the farmer innovators and other farmer-led businesses. And this is our impact statement. As I told, I'll again re-emphasize more than 125 startups we are nurtured, and about 12 technologies that we have validated so far. 40 plus startups we have funded, about 22 were received bootstrap grant, because we not only mentor and nurture the startup, but also we help them on the early stage funding and also bootstrap grants, so that they get the financial assistance to establish their enterprise and also their innovation further into an enterprise model. So these are the various impact statements. And then coming to our agripreneurship, the today's topic, and it is very important and interesting topic, because traditionally we as in the India has been an agrarian economy from centuries, and agripreneurship has been an integral part of this, because we all know the farmers, farming community have been doing this business. There could be trade of business or like any other business, which we can partly say agripreneurship. But when we add it to innovations, innovations can be anything. They could be uh, a tweaking of the business models, or like integrating it with different other sectors, or like technologies, and making ultimately farmer and farming profitable and also sustainable. And today, from the roots of traditional farming to rise of innovations, agripreneurship is really changing the shape of how an Indian or agrarian economy of India has been looked at. Earlier, it was more to do with just producing a agriculture produce or a product. But today, it is more about productivity. It is more about sustainability. It is more about harmony. It is more about climate. So this is all coming together in the form of agripreneurship, or like India. I mean, in India, the agriculture is not just a livelihood opportunity, but is also emerging as a foreseen or very potential business area, where even largest of the largest corporates also looking at, right? And that is the reason today in India we have more than 3,500 registered startups under DPIIT, and also we have more than informally more than 10,000 plus startups we have in India. And to cater all these startups, we have more than 100 plus incubation centers, which are exclusively focusing on agriculture startups and also agripreneurship or grassroots innovations in agriculture. So this is how the dynamics and also the graph is steeply growing in India, at least from last 2015 onwards. The change in the approach towards agripreneurship has happened, right? And coming to the agri landscape of India, and we all know India is an agrarian economy, and more than 50% of the workforce is employed in agriculture, and also it contributes to 15 to 18% to our GDP, right? And in India, agriculture is very, very important aspect, and in fact, in the world also, for food security and also reducing the economic imbalances and also livelihood, especially in the people who are living in rural areas. And it employs, as we already discussed, 52% of the Indian population, and also the agriculture holds 52% of the total land cultivated against 11% in the world. So India has a very important mark as an agriculture or agrarian economy, not only at continental level but also at the global end. And interestingly, when it comes to the geographies and climates, we have 15 major agroclimates of the world, from the snow-capped mountains in Himalayas to southern peninsulas. And also we have 20 plus agroclimatic zones, about 46 types of the soils that we have in our country. So with this rich background of agriculture as a culture, culminating the people, civilization, and all from the centuries, versus the biodiversity and also the rich agro diversity and also the soils. Agriculture has been flourishing and blooming in India from long ago, long ago. Then how today we are ending up, I mean, if we really talk about in the numbers as well, like we are the largest producers of major agricultural commodities and also allied commodities in the world. But why today we are not able to crack that being the highest productivity based country? We are only talking about the production, but today that production is not meeting the demand, in fact even raised by our own country. Sometimes we also depend on other countries to import few of the things, as like in the agricultural commodities. And so why it is happening, especially it's because of the productivity issues. And why productivity is less? Because of the very less technology integration, I would say. Or second thing could be like very ill practices that the farmers do because of lack of information, I would say. But when we combine it, and also the third thing, making farming more profitable, that's only possible through when farmer makes a good price realization for whatever they produce at the farm level. And when we comes to the agripreneurship canvas, like as I told you, from 2020 to 25, there is 2020, sorry, 2000 to 2025, there has been a significant growth, because that's where even government has pushed, or came forward with very interesting schemes like RKV, Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana, and then from there it slowly made a very very streamlined framework with Startup India and Stand Up India, and then slowly they have focused more on the agriculture. So that's when the National Agriculture Policy of 2000 also have aimed 4% of the annual growth through very good resource management and also private investments. That's when the India has opened its doors for lot of private investments and also a different shift game altogether. So in this, like as we discussed RKVY, under RKVY, the Raftar agribusiness incubators have come. When I really speak about the agripreneurship point of view, so how the incubators have come into the picture and how they started nurturing. Then RKVY has come up with this Raftar incubators. DPT has come up with their own bionas and other incubators. MSME has come with their Aspire LBA, livelihood business incubation centers, and NABARD has come up with their RPSs, rural business incubation center. So these all have come into the picture in the country like India exclusively to promote the agripreneurship at rural level. And how it has happened? Is it like only by promoting the rural people into the agriculture business? Not really. It is also promoted by encouraging the technology startups. The technology startups like drones or robotics or like many other AI IoT applications. There could be the this trading companies or anyone from other industries to slowly diversifying or expanding their applications into agriculture. So that's how they also have pushed the agripreneurship in the rural India, because when the startups or a tech driven companies or institutes slowly land into the rural area, the shape of the agriculture in the rural area slowly changes, and also the farmer as an individual, he or she can also educated in this digital world, and also they becomes the independent decision makers. When the farmer becomes an independent decision maker, automatically the profitability and sustainability of the farming also will increase. And how this agripreneurship basically is done, and like how do we really take this process? And there are a simple, very very simple 5 steps. Is a fundamental framework: discovery of any idea, or like in fact I would say discovery of a problem statement in this case, and then build a concept. And when we say concept, it is a solution. Once the concept development is done, then then it comes the resourcing. Resourcing is all about how do we make this particular solution for a X problem combined with various resources, that could be human, financial, etc., 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 and then actualizing it with a POC, and from there to a proper viable product that can get into the market, or to the ultimate user, could be farmer or could be any other stakeholder in the agriculture and food production systems, and harvest. What to harvest? Harvest the benefits out of that. So this entire process is basically, now we call it as agripreneurship canvas, and these particular elements will basically supported by various incubation centers across India which are present. And once it is done, then what are the typical agripreneurship supporting models in the rural India? And when we are talking about farmers, farmer associations, or food processors or exporters, there could be different types of approaches. That could be by national research institutes like CFTR, ICR, IAHR, wherein the applied research coming into the rural areas, that could be through seed varieties, that could be through some other scientific recommendations, or like any other processes. In fact, the technologies led by the universities that can help SSGs, women groups, and also FPOs build their own businesses. Because these days we see a lot of technology transfer happening from the institutes to rural areas, institutes to the startups. This is how a different sort of an agripreneurship models basically get created. In fact, in our own experience, we also have trained a lot of SSGs and women-based SSGs and also FPOs on university-led technologies, like extraction of cold pressed oils, extraction of natural dye colors from the what you'll say regularly naturally available plant flowers and etc etc, and then building more value chains on millets and also various other agricultural commodities. Like that, it's more of a technology transfer way. And then second thing, on the other government of India agencies, like specific, very commodity specific organizations, especially under the scheme of ODOP, that is one district one product program, wherein they have identified the food clusters across India in different states, different districts, and they have sanctioned certain processing centers, they have sanctioned certain food processing incubation centers exclusively to improvise agripreneurship through food technology. That could be because in India, so far when we talk about agriculture, it ends with harvesting and selling the produce in the market. But beyond that is also a specific value chain. Why can't we include farmers or train farmers on that as well and make it the whole agriculture supply chain or agriculture value chain, wherein farmer would reap more benefits? So that's where a different type of agripreneurship, that could be more of a foodpreneurship, which is coming into the picture. That is also again, catering to the development of the agripreneurship in rural India. Then third thing is the state agriculture departments, horticulture departments. Is it's more of a program implementation that could be through any of the international programs or like state-led schemes, which can again push the uh, small livelihood opportunities or like micro entrepreneurship or micropreneurship models in agriculture and allied sectors. That is also one of the case that we can look into, especially to promote agripreneurship. And then we talk about agricultural universities, which is more or less like any other institutes that would talk about technology transfer and then package of practices and then research varieties, hybrids, and various other things. And through the extension, they also bring in the technological perspectives to the farmers and build a different business models altogether. And then we have the food processing incubation, and at the end of the this chain, we also have the banks, which are like national banks and also the apex banks like NABARD, which basically push the agripreneurship or like micro entrepreneurship models in the rural India through the incubators that they basically fund for or fund with. And then the second thing could be the skilling, capacity building, and training programs that they independently do, or they collaborate with some other organizations and they conduct for the rural stakeholders. And we all know that NABARD has been that apex institute for all of these things, and they have so far promoted more than 600 or 700 FPOs within like a single state of Telangana. And then that's how they are emphasizing their agripreneurship model in a very different way altogether, because they come with this community approach rather than an individual approach. Right. So how do we transform the rural India by using or like basically including or integrating these agri enterprises, and what is the benefit out of it? And typically, if we see, I mean, this was a very calculated and from one of the known papers that agri enterprises will increase the farmers' income by 30 to 50%, because now we all talk about doubling the farmer income from last 10 years. But how do we do it? Is it only by doing a simple traditional agriculture? No, it's not really. We also have to integrate it with either any allied activities or integrate it with the digital agriculture or some sort of an enterprising model. Because unless until we diversify the risk, we will not be able to diversify our income sources as well. That's where the farmers or the farming communities are today looking forward to becoming more of a agripreneurs than the simple farmers. And how they are trying to do, we will also learn about it in the course of time. And this also creates a significant employment opportunity in the rural area, because today we are also facing one of the important challenges, unemployment in the rural areas, because of unskilled labor, or like maybe education, or like could be because of the awareness about different programs or opportunities. But this agripreneurship or like bringing this enterprise models to the rural level would really help the lot of unemployed rural youth and also other farming community to get into the more sustainable employment opportunities or create employment for their own villages and communities. And third thing, agri enterprise or agripreneurship can also empower the women and marginal communities, because here the beauty of agripreneurship is they really work on the gender inclusivity and also no barrier community approaches, because of which lot of enterprises or like a lot of enterprise models, in fact a lot of digital agriculture models, are including women and marginalized communities as a priority, because they are coming out with these approaches where women can happily take part of and start their own agri enterprises. And we as incubation center, we also help in the say similar regards of how do we include women, how do we include communities, how do we include farming communities at a larger scale to farm their own agri enterprises, in terms of that could be through FPOs, that could be through SSGs, that could be through Dwakra, that could be through any other women groups or like any other community enterprising model. And then this enterprising at rural level can also foster the small business ecosystem, because in a rural area, because of various constraints that could be financial, community, and other constraints, we cannot build big enterprises at one stage. So we can basically foster a lot of small scale business ecosystems, which we basically term as micro enterprises. That could be micro enterprises could be as simple as building a small food-based business, or building a small trading business, or like something like a technology transfer. They basically license a technology. Like for example, there is an X area which has a lot of oil seeds grown. So can we establish a small cold pressed oil unit, or like maybe after extracting the oil, can we basically build a small oil cakes unit of which can become a fodder, or like feed for the cattle and all of those things. And the second thing could be integrating with the digital technology, because today we are in the digital agriculture era where we are all talking about various digital technologies taking over agriculture. That could be drones, that could be robotics, that could be different applications, price forecasting, weather forecasting, and AI, IoT sensors, etc., etc. But when these particular technologies takes over the market, they also need some sort of a village level representatives for their startups, and also village level people, or like rural youth who can own the franchises and run their models at the village level. That's when we call it as the digital village influencers. And in fact, that particular jargon and also concept is going around the places wherein the farmers being trained by the startups on their technologies, and they in turn take these technologies or franchises or services to their villages and establish a small scale businesses by offering the services of startups. That could be as simple as drones, wherein now we see the central government has come up with this scheme called as drone didi scheme, or like other kisan drone, wherein the didis of different states, I mean the women of different states, they train on drone piloting, they get the DGCA pilot certificate, they own the drones and they fly it for their livelihood. Or else there could be some other farm rural youth who learns these technologies and start their own farm custom hiring center, or like maybe small farmer service or digital service units across India. And in fact, there are a lot of startups which are encouraging these kind of services in India. And we as an incubation center work with a lot of such startups to connect farmers and startups on a win-win situation. And if you see the typical agri enterprise models, they are the very conventional, but beyond that, there are a lot of other, services are also coming apart from the farm gate, value addition, direct marketing, processing units, logistics support, and transport service. These are the very traditional. But apart from this, we also now coming up with the, FPO enterprise level, what is a business models, and also digital value addition models, right? And then types of agricultural entrepreneurship models, as I told, there could be farmer level producers. The farm level producers, they could be handled by individual farmer or farmer producer organizations, or like in any communities. And then second thing could be service providers. These services could be anything. They could be the financial service providers, or the technology service providers, or like maybe other knowledge service providers. Likewise, depending on the models that they basically come up with. And then third thing could be input producers. Input producers are more to do with either FPO, simple FPO carrying out their input trading business, or else the FPOs, or like independent farmers who are becoming the seed producers or input producers. It's like many of the research institutes and also the private companies, they would like to go for the seed producer, seed producing these things, because of their constraints for the land and land availability and etc. So they try to onboard farmers as the seed producers. So that is also one of the agripreneurship model that rural stakeholders can think of or look into. And fourth thing could be processing and marketing of the pro farmer producers. And this is more to do with the foodpreneurship, or like even in agriculture, if you say the marketing, I mean basically building the local brands. Now we all talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat, local for local. So this is so local for local. So this is what it is. I mean, like we building the local brands, we building the regional brands, and promoting that at a larger scale with the help of startups and also the government initiatives. So this is how the entrepreneurship models can be built. And then a few of the components that we can talk about: farm equipment manufacturing. This is the very small scale, manufacturing of, like, grassroots level farm equipment or farm implements. Because, like, we also deal with a lot of grassroots innovators who come up with this very innovative and, Jugadu models. Like, through a very less investments, they come up with a innovative farm equipment, machinery and all. And then pesticides and fertilizer supply, it is more of an input dealership and all. Then the third thing could be, helping the agricultural research and development, the seed supply, crop and food storage, farm production and processing, agriculture financing, delivery and marketing. And then there is a digital agriculture, components and all. So these are the various things that I have, as I discussed. These are the different components. And then innovative agri enterprises. These are the very basic, models that we can talk about, like, farm gate value addition, micro warehouse solutions, quality assaying the services. Because these days, lot of digital tools are coming in, assessing the fair pricing and competitive markets and all. The farmers also can help in this particular services, or as so market research and stuff. And then digital soil, because, like, there are these days lot of soil analysis companies are coming. I mean, they need somebody, or, like, some enterprises basically help them, or farmer producer communities who can help them to reach out to various farming clusters and, communities. So they can also see this as a interesting agripreneurship model, wherein learning these technologies and, taking these technologies to the rural areas, and then building a small micro enterprise models, or, like, some digital franchisee models around it. And then, of course, drone technology, that is very well known these days, right? And these are the different factors that affect agripreneurship at rural area. That could be the individual factors, enterprise related factors, and then environmental factors. That environment, when I say environment, is external and internal, like more to do with policies and, the infrastructure, like digital public infrastructure, and then incentivization policies, and then business environment, the ease of doing business in this respective states and also respective areas. And then so these are the various factors that basically impact, the small level agricultural enterprises in a quick view. And how can we basically promote this rural level entrepreneurship through programs? And we are proud and happy to, say, like, we have our own rural innovation spokes, and also we have our own frameworks to basically promote the rural entrepreneurship across Telangana, state of Telangana, and eventually into the different states. So always, I mean, because agripreneurship, organized agripreneurship, or, like, rural entrepreneurship or agri entrepreneurship, is like a really a new or a cultural change for most of the rural stakeholders, because they have been, following a specific traditional or conventional way of doing things. So we basically come up with this sensitization and skilling, the rural stakeholders of various things, that could various things, as in the agripreneurship, what is entrepreneurship, how it can be done, how it basically improvises and enhances their livelihood activities, and also increases their profitability and income, through which we will be scouting and fostering the rural talent. That could be from the rural youth, women, FPOs, farm-based enterprises, and grassroots innovators. And then the second thing could be after sensor. It is more of a funnel level approach. And then we talk about the early stage rural enterprises. After sensitizing and skilling and scouting, we out of 1,000, if we do, for example, then out of that, only 10% of the people, or 100 members, would basically come and show an interest to form a rural enterprise, right? And that there we talk about incubating them as a rural enterprise, the ones who basically show interest. And then we handhold them based on their interest on different technologies or different livelihood programs or any other things, on their interest, their availability of the resources, and also markets. And then the third thing could be creating the agri-tech startups and rural stakeholders nexus. Because when we are creating the rural entrepreneurs and handholding them on the various technologies and the services, there is also a need of in a conjunction, or like an interjunction between the rural stakeholders, or these rural enterprises versus the agri-tech startups. Because that's where we flow the digital technologies, we flow the the upmarket strategies into the rural areas, and build these agripreneurship models super strong and also more sustainable. And these are the various things. And we personally at our organization have supported more than 20 rural stakeholders, or rural entrepreneurs who have started their own agripreneurship, or agri enterprises. Like we have Kisan Remote, which is like on the remote control irrigation motor starter. This is again, these are all the grassroots innovators that we have identified and built the agripreneurship models around. And then we have Ekachakra Weeder. It is on the a normal feeder with a could be petrol, diesel, and also the solar. And then we have a battery operated weeder by Mr. Shanmugh Rao garu. And then we have automatic on and off motor pump. And then we have wild boar alarms. And then we have drone spraying. And these are all grassroots innovations, have basically come from their personal life struggles as agricultural farmers. And they have come up with these innovative models. And then to this innovation models, we are building the enterprising models around it, because these, if they only become an innovations, or innovators, they will only be known to their circles, their communities, and their villages. But when we build a successful enterprise model around it, it will be known to the entire India and world. And also they will also build more impactful agripreneur, or agri enterprises, which can in turn impact so many lives of the farmers and also rural youth by giving employment and also solutions for various problems. And these are all the various in enterprise development programs that we conduct. And interestingly, we have also curated a program called as Agritech Market Access Program. And in fact, this is one of its kind program, exclusively designed to make the startups interact or pitch to the farmers, and farmers get to learn about new technologies that are coming in the digital agriculture era. And this also makes a very interesting window or a door for startups to explore their customer markets, understand the gaps on their products, and come back, pivot their models and pivot their products, and come up with more robust solutions for the farmers. This is how even the digital technologies and tools will be accepted by the farmers, and they will also think to associate, and also they will be happy to associate with these startups, either to avail the services for their own farming needs. And also they can also reach out to the startups on the agripreneurship models by taking the services and building their own businesses at the rural area. And yes, these all looks very lucrative, but are there any challenges right now? Yes, there are also challenges right now in India, starting with the simple as inadequate infrastructure, that could be physical infrastructure or the digital and public infrastructure that we have across this country, which is basically hindering the process of filtering this particular, or percolating this concept of agripreneurship to each and every farmer. That But slowly and steadily, it is also strongly coming into the Indian market. And we are getting day by day good infrastructure at rural level as well. And then a lack of entrepreneurial culture, because when we go to the rural level, it's more of a more of an innovators, or a regular juggling phase, than starting an entrepreneurial culture altogether, or entrepreneurial entity or a firm altogether. Because it was never a thing for the farming community, though it was there traditionally or conventionally, informally, but formally it was not there. And the skilled and talented workforce migration, this is one of the largest and very stressful factor, wherein if they are little more talented and all, then they immediately migrate to the urban regions for their work, and maybe any small and marginal work, but they don't want to stay back in the rural areas for their betterment of livelihood. And then the inadequate poor technologies and equipments, this is something to do with the niche, because right now we are in the transformation stage. Probably in another 10 years, we should be able to come up with a more suitable and also financially viable products and technologies for the smallholder farmers and also the other farming community. Information gap, there is a huge information gap between the schemes, subsidies, and also the other benefits, and also various other supports given by the government and also private institutes versus the rural area, because of various layers and filters. And then yeah, inadequate transportation, it's because of sometimes even these technology startups, or the marketing people, they don't want to travel so far, or it is vice versa. Even the farmers don't want to reach out to the urban markets for the better price, because they don't want to take risk on any other things. And then institutional measure and government policies, there are also, of course, the lot of policies have already came into the picture for the betterment of agripreneurship, the landscape or canvas in the rural India, but still lot of policies to be developed and materialized. And then problems in the marketing of agricultural produces, and also high cost physical logistics. These are the various challenges, and when we feel list, it will be like a huge list. But yeah, these challenges or obstacles can also be turned into opportunities, and more agripreneurship or agri enterprise business models can be built on these challenges as well. So one can look into that direction also. And there are various schemes so far. I have listed very few schemes, but if we really go to the various government portals and Startup India portals, there will be any number of portals which supports agripreneurship. Just to give you, then there is this Aspire scheme by Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, a scheme for promotion of innovation, rural industries and entrepreneurship, that is Aspire, under which they give LBIs for most very many of the institutes, that is livelihood business incubation centers, which are responsible for skilling and training the rural stakeholders for betterment of the livelihood for the rural stakeholders or farmers and women through micro enterprise models. And then we have DDU, GKY, and then we have Startup Village Entrepreneurship Program. Then we have Pradhan Mantri Vandhan Yojana. Then we have MEDPs, Mudra Yojana for especially for taking the soft loans, and also low interest loans for the rural entrepreneurship building. And then we have a lot of policies and benefits under Startup India scheme. If somebody wants to register themselves as a startup, even the rural enterprises, and then build a big model around it. And then there are various then capacity subsidies are there, and then we have Kusum kind of yojanas, especially if somebody who are looking into renewable energy side. And then we have a National Small Industry Corporation subsidy scheme for somebody who wants to curate and build small scale industries at the village level. So these are the very few schemes, I would rather say, like which are supporting the agripreneurship. But like nonetheless, one can always reach out to incubators like us, or like you can do your own Google or like internet search. There will be a lot of schemes that are available. So these are the things. But I mean, long story short, there is a huge scope for agripreneurship in rural India, especially because already there are so many startups who have established in the agriculture domain, and they all are looking for their prospective customers and also their prospective canvas, which is rural India. And this is the right time for anyone who can chip into it and start their own enterprising model and build their businesses and flourish, uh, but more, and also make the agri ecosystem or agri food production system flourish better, which become more sustainable and also harmonious. Yeah, so this is what I want to say. And thank you. And if any questions are there, I'll be happy to answer. If any questions are there, I'll be happy
Yeah.
to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Mukesh, for the detailed presentation. So I'll take up some questions now. Yeah. Okay. So just 1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are the key barriers rural farmers face in starting agri businesses?
So as I told, so there will be a lot of barriers, I would say, but we cannot really call them as barriers anymore. Earlier, yes, we used to use these terms, but it is more of a challenges. I mean, very primary level challenges which can be easily addressed. To start with, as I clearly mentioned in my presentation, first things first, the first hand information to the farmer, because of various layers and filters, the farmer is unable to get the first hand information unless until they themselves are doing certain research. Because what happens is, like, in India, most of the farmers are basically depends on their progressive farmers in the village, or like their dealers and distributors on the first hand information. But if they do the primary level, yeah, information search, they'll be able to get accurate information, especially on building certain business models, or like, how do we diversify their, income levels, and also coming up with various agripreneurship models. That is one thing. That is exclusively the information gap. The second thing is inadequate infrastructure. When I say infrastructure, it is not about buildings or anything, brick and mortar structures, but I'm talking about more of a digital public infrastructure, or like, more of a digital public goods, or more of a structures or physical infrastructures, which basically can improve the agri supply chains and value chains. So the infrastructure is still lacking in many of the places in the rural area. That is the reason even the startups, though they have come up with a very interesting and very efficient technologies, they are unable to scale down or scale deep their models and services to the rural level. That is the second level thing. That is problem for the farmers and also for the startups, which government has to intervene and see. And the third thing is finances. Because for farmer, I mean, of course, like, to start any enterprise, they also need finances, and they don't have much information on how do they get low interest rates, or like, maybe other beneficial grants, which can help them boost their entrepreneurship aspirations further. That is the third thing. And the fourth thing is the collective effort. This is also one of the important thing, because in India, like, we have a lot of how do I say it, this crab mentality. Neither, like, neither I want to grow, or like, neither don't want to see any other grow. But as a community, when we come together and build the farmer producer organizations or any farmer community enterprises, that will be more successful and also grow strongly. And other thing could be sometimes the logistics. That is an issue for the farmer, especially because going to the faraway markets. Because even today, though we have very good roads and all other infrastructures and transportation infrastructure, but farmer is hesitant to move his produce or her produce from X point to Y point, because of losses and also various other risks. That is another thing. And also fourth thing is, when especially we are talking about trading kind of a business, they are unsure of the market prices, and also vulnerabilities at the market dynamics. So this is something which is a challenge. And then the fourth, like, the other thing could be, they are not sure about marketing their agriculture products in a better way. So though they have very good products, very quality products, because the farmer is unable to crack the code of marketing, branding, packaging, and all of those things, there they are failing to basically realize more income. So they end up even selling the good quality produce to a normal vendor at a reasonable, or like, the regular prices for whatever other grades can be sold. So these are the various things. And the other thing is, like, more of the this workforces, or like, talented people or talented youth from the rural areas, they are migrating to the urban areas. So these are the few challenges, because of which farmers and also the rural community whole together is struggling, especially to boost their agripreneurship frames, or like, their approaches at their I mean, like, community level. Yeah.
Okay. And how can youth in villages be motivated to take up agri entrepreneurship?
I'm sorry, can you please repeat the question?
How can youth in villages be motivated to take up agri entrepreneurship?
Okay, see, basically anyone, and I would say rather not only youth, but anyone in the rural community or urban community, they need to see some incentive. I mean, to take up the task. Anyone, let's say, for that matter, anyone, if they wanted to take up any task, they need to see some incentivization. Incentivization is not just monetary benefits, but how that particular thing or that particular approach is basically improvising their situations, right? So even when it comes to the rural youth, they also have to feel that incentivization. Because what is the incentivization for a rural youth? Maybe a better livelihood, maybe better income sources, maybe a better lifestyle. So we have, or maybe a better name in their society. So we basically have to identify, we initially identify the rural youth, sensitize them, skill them, understand their requirements and aspirations, and then try to slowly make these rural youth into a enterprising enterprise enablers, or like village level entrepreneurs. There could be several kinds of rural youth. There could be a rural youth with a good idea, not having any resources or something like that, or there could be a rural youth with all the resources but they don't have any idea, or there could be third person who don't want to do anything. But how do we cater to their needs is something which we as an institute have to basically think about and draw certain policies. Like in our own experience, let me say, we have a specific programs designed for rural youth and women exclusively to attract them towards the digital agriculture, wherein we sensitize them. In sensitization, we get all kinds of people who understands, who does not understand, who don't want to understand, and all kinds of people in the life cycle, or like the graph of rural community. Everybody we get. But when we complete the sensitization workshop, those people who remains are the ones who are passionate, and sometimes the ones who are not at all interested before the program, but come after completion of the program, they become very much interested, or like they become those first hand learners, because earlier they were not having any awareness about this information, or like this particular technologies that they can explore. So first things first, we have to design as institutes, because it is an institutional responsibility, not an individual responsibility, to gather the information, take the first hand information to the farmer or a rural youth, sensitize them, give them the awareness, build the capacities, and then take them into the enterprise route. Definitely, if we do that, this particular approach, definitely, and in fact, a lot of government and also private institutes and organizations are doing this. But how we do is something which we have to basically discuss and come up with a strategic plan, where a rural youth is coming into. Then basically we have to plan their entire journey from being an innovator or being an individual to becoming an enterprise or a startup founder after 1 or 2 years. So the entire curation of the journey and its steps are more important to basically attract the rural youth. And in especially in agriculture, I think right now, today, with today's level of digital, what is a boom that is even happening in rural area, rural youth would be more interested to listen and learn about the technologies and also contribute their bit in the agripreneurship when we integrate with the digital tools and technologies, and also the machinery part of it. Yeah. Yeah. Hope I have answered the question.
Yeah. Okay. And next question. Are there any government schemes supporting rural agri business startups?
Yes, I have already shared in the presentation. In fact, I have explained.
You can
Uh,
just point them out in points if you can. Otherwise, I'll take up the next question.
Okay, sure. So basically, there are lots and lots of schemes, and also support areas, like supporting initiatives taken up by the central government and also various other government agencies, starting with RKVY, that is Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana. Under that, we have Raftar and also various other schemes, and then we have Aspire by Ministry of MSME. Then we have Bionis by DBT. Then we have RBIS by NABARD. Then we have Startup India. Then we have ODOP, that is owned by Ministry of Food Processing and Industries. So I have one district, one product program, and then we have every state has its own startup policy and also the agri related policies for rural areas. So likewise, there are various schemes are there, and even the banks are providing capital subsidies and also low interest loans for especially for the women entrepreneurs, women SSGs, and also rural youth if somebody wants to pursue the agripreneurship and also micro entrepreneurship in the village level.
Okay. And how can FPOs help in rural empowerment?
See, it's as simple as FPOs are the community-led enterprises, and when we are talking about community or like FPO kind of a model, they basically build on the principle or like in a prop called as unity is strength, right? And if we really wanted to bring in the change or bring in the empowerment in the rural areas, with one individual farmer, it is not going to happen. Or even if it happens, it takes a lot of time. But FPO is a collective of number of farmers from the village, right? And when they are collectively coming together, they are collectively coming together for a cause, exclusively, right? And FPOs play a very important and vital role because they have control over the farming community exclusively. For example, it's as simple as let me tell you, like for example, drones are there. If I wanted drone, or for that matter, any technology, if I wanted to create a change in the agriculture production system, maybe regards to X crop, I cannot really go to individual farmer and say this technology is good, you go ahead with this. This technology is good, you implement it or you execute it. I cannot do that because as an institute or as an organization or as a startup, I will not have bandwidth or the rapport with individuals farmer to basically pitch about the technology and put it or disseminate that particular information. That could be technology, that could be information, that could be service, that could be anything. But when I talk about FPOs, if I basically put forward about a certain information about anything to the board of directors or a spokesperson of an FPO, that automatically percolates to the entire farming community that particular FPO is catering to, because they have the huge network, huge rapport, and also they have collectively built, all the farmers have collectively built by putting their bit of shareholding capital, or whatever it is. So everybody has an accountability to basically give back to FPO, or learn something and build a big. So with these contexts and also with these approaches, FPOs are built in very very dynamic way, or very very strong or strategic way to impact or influence the farming community which it is catering to. That is the beauty and also strength of an FPO. And the same strategy can also be used in this particular regard to empower rural stakeholders, or farming communities on any aspect.
Okay. And oh, yeah, what role does the agri-tech play in strengthening rural economies?
Yeah. So basically, agri-techs have taken the markets, or even I would say the fields from last 10 years. Before that, in India at least, we were not really talking much about the agri-tech. When I said tech, the digital technologies, the other technologies would be there, the seed varieties, or the fertilizers, pesticides, and all of those things. But when we are talking about the digital agriculture technologies, from last 10 years, it started taking over the places in the Indian agriculture context. And how it is impacting the, or benefiting the rural India, it's matter of convenience, it is matter of prediction, it is matter of reliability. Because it's as simple as, see, already agriculture is facing a lot of challenges. That could be through labor scarcity, that could be change in climate, that could be farmer migrating, from our rural areas to urban areas, or leaving the farming completely. There could be n number of scenarios. In this particular scenario, how do we hello
Speaking.
hello Yeah. So in this particular scenario, how do these technologies would basically help them? It's as simple as a technology coming in, making the farmer's job easy. As in, a drone technology has come into picture. What it has made to the agriculture systems, it has substituted the labor, say labor, or they have basically filled the gap of labor scarcity. Earlier, a farmer, if they wants to basically spray a pesticide or a fertilizer to their field, it would take them 4 to 5 days, based upon the availability of the labor, and then whether they come or not, they don't know, and their the cost, everything. But today, when drone is there, if they schedule a particular spray, unless until it is raining, or some other extra external factors are being a hindrance, they just come, they spray, and they go. Farmer really don't have to stress about all of these things, and also the drudgery in the farming is also being eliminated. And second thing could be any of the businesses that we are talking. Like that could be trades, or that could be fair trade price of the markets, or like that could be market dynamics. Everything is right now is in the first hand information in the mobile phones. And the third thing could be more of a transparency in the markets. Today, farmers, by sitting in their home, they know what is the price of X commodity in some other state. So these are the transparencies that we are seeing. And likewise, we also see a lot of other things, like especially there are certain sensors and also various other prediction application that talk about when it is going to rain, or else like when a certain pest is going to attack their crop or their field. So these are making farmers life easier, farmers decision more stronger, which in turn helping the farming and also the production systems more sustainable, and they are helping in improving the productivity, not just the production, but also the price realization of the product. So this is I mean, there could be a lot of integrations or integral approaches of these technologies based on services and products that they offer to communities. Based on that, definitely it is playing its own important and vital role to improve the ecosystem at field or farm level.
Okay. And can small landholders also benefit from agribusiness opportunities?
Yes, definitely. Definitely they can benefit. Only thing is they have to assess, or they have to take support of someone in what way they can basically get benefited. Because if they really do their regular conventional farming, like for example, when we talk about smallhold farmer who is basically having less than 1 hectare of land, so in that, do they have to only grow rice or cotton, or do they have to go for diversified business, or do they have to do something else or some other approach, which basically has to be taken in collaboration with certain expert? Then definitely they can do, because we listen to a lot of such success stories across India. And then very recently I was reading to one but your story like article, wherein in Madhya Pradesh there is one person who is making literally 1 lakh rupees per month from 1.5 acres. 1 lakh rupees for per month from 1.5 acres. Just imagine, he is like a very bare minimum farmer than 1.5 acres, right? So there are a lot of such cases, but how there are only few cases which we are listening. What is making them basically that kind of successful farmers, whereas other farmers are still deprived of their income, deprived of their resources, and still struggling to do the farming? Why it is happening? So we have to understand it is not only just the situations, but also their personal characters to change or adopt to the new situations. If they really adopt new technologies, or like new approaches, or like some other strategies, definitely anyone can. In fact, the person who owns even the less than 1 acre, they can become more profitable.
Okay. And what are some successful rural agribusiness models in India?
See, rural agri business models, when I say, there are so many models, starting with the very big and well-known names like Amul's, because they are also started as a rural enterprise, or in fact, they are the small milk unions, or like milk cooperatives who started very small, and then now they have grown a global brand. And right, this is a cooperative related model. And then when we talk about an FPO model, and we all know Sahyadris, I mean, like to be very frank, from last 10-15 years we're only talking about Sahyadris, right? So why? Because they are such a huge model, and in fact no other FPOs really could beat that model. But we have to now envision institute like ours. Now we have to basically create more such sort of an Sahyadris, more such sort of case studies like that. And then we talk about other, I mean, in our own state we have various other FPO models, and also FPOs basically leasing their lands, and also to various companies, and building their own different models. And then we have other rural models like food entrepreneurship. If we talk about, then there are companies like Lijit Papad, which is again a very great story. And then in our own the Telangana state, I mean, where our incubation center is, we have a Benishan Federation. It's a farmer federation, wherein they are doing a very wonderful business with the mangoes, exclusively mangoes and seasonal fruit businesses. So and they do value addition and all of those things. And the third thing could be more to do with technology transfer and technology licensing. I mean, build a technology based models at rural level by licensing the technologies from the research institutes or agriculture universities or any other university. That could be another model. So likewise, there could be a lot of evolving models around.
Okay. And how can rural women be included more in agribusiness ventures?
See, basically, I would not say how included, okay, because they have been included, and in fact, agriculture, if we really see, women have been it's like agriculture has been backbone of India, and women has been backbone of agriculture. The only thing is how do we make them more involved in terms of building the enterprises. That could be by what how do I say it by more of a hand holding, right? That is one thing, hand holding, sensitization and skilling the women at a rural level, and also understanding. Because one thing, even at least today for next 10 years or something like that, we also have to understand in the society or community like India, there are a lot of community level barriers and challenges for women, unfortunately, right? But we all have to, we as institutes and progressive thinkers, we have to see, even with the community barriers or like the societal challenges, how do we make women more empowered to build businesses without hampering their personal life. That is one of the important tasks. In fact, like whenever we talk about small scale technologies or small scale micro entrepreneurship models, we always talk about gender inclusivity. It has to be women friendly, right? So we try to build such technologies, we try to build such enterprising models. When we go with such kind of interventions, when we sensitize them, when we skill them, when we build the capacities, definitely the women participation, they themselves will come forward. Because personally, we as an agriculture university, we have lot of in-house developed technologies like natural dye processing, textiles, and also various other food tech company, food tech related products and all. So last but 1 year, we have trained about 25 women SSGs on natural dye extraction. It's as simple as these women SSGs are basically from the tribal communities and marginalized communities where they live nearby forests. And for them, there are a lot of challenges, the societal challenges and also resource challenges. So we have identified the strengths. So this is very important. So the institutes who wants to basically empower the women or like any rural stakeholder have to identify the challenges and also opportunities that they can make themselves at their community level. So we have identified, then immediately we understood, okay, fine, they live near to forest areas and there is abundant resources of this natural dye extra based raw material. That could be barks, that could be leaves, that could be flowers of various forest trees. And then we have identified progressive SSGs. We have called them to Hyderabad, and then we have basically organized several sessions. Like it was more the two-day hands-on workshop, identifying the trees, identifying the plants, collecting them, curating them, curing them, processing them, extracting the colors. How do they dye it? All this process, entire process of textile, from natural dye extraction to textile dyeing, we have explained. And the beauty of this model, immediately after 1 month, there are about three women SSGs have came forward to establish their own enterprise. And today there are one individual and one SSG have established their own enterprise. Now they are in the talks to the university on licensing the technology and starting their own business. So it's all
Okay.
about the approach that we take. Yeah.
Okay. So the last question, how can digital platforms help farmers market their products better?
See, digital, when we talk about digital, it's the easiest tool to reach the masses. And today, in our agriculture, the biggest problem is farmers don't really reach masses because they either sell their produce to the immediate middleman at their village level, or at the max few people go to the the APMCs or like agriculture mandis to sell their products, and there are very few, as in like less than 1% of the people who would really go forward and sell it to the end consumer. That could be retail stores or like customers or retail stores or like some other consumers, hotels, restaurants, or something else. I mean, when I really talk about a typical agricultural commodity, but these digital platforms, how they help, they can always enlist the farmer produce and basically take it to the clients. That is one thing. Second thing could be there are a lot of digital platforms who are helping farmers realize the value, because they bring in the transparency between the farmer and customer, because the customer or consumer knows what he or she is eating and where it is coming from. At the same time, if it is a quality produce, if the consumer is paying 2 rupees extra than the market price, in that 2 rupees, 1 rupee is going to the farmer, which is a little higher side of value realization to this particular farmer. That is the second thing. And third thing is basically building more opportunities for the farmer, because when they are reaching out to the markets, when the produce is good, when the feedback is good through this particular digital platforms, farmer is able to basically bring in more land under cultivation and more diversification is happening. And fifth one, these digital platforms are also helping the farmers in getting first-hand information, or like more of a learnings. That could be learnings about how market works, learnings about what makes their farming more practical, profitable, and also sustainable, what approach makes their farming life more convenient and financially viable. So these are the few things I would say, but if I really dive deep into it, it is going to be altogether a different session, altogether. So I think these are the few ways how a farmer is getting benefited through digital applications so far.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Mukesh. So I don't see any more questions. So now we have to come to end of question round.
Yeah.
On behalf of agricultureinformation.com, I'd like to thank you for the detailed presentation and answering all the questions in depth. And I also like to thank my editorial team for sharing the questions. So we'll be ending this meeting now.
Yeah,
Have a good
thank you.
evening.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.